Hi, it's Steve the Grumpy Hypnotist. I'm doing this little video to explain scenarios where, well, let's just get right into it. As mentioned on my website, the question that many people have in the back of their mind of whether or not hypnosis works, that kind of question actually really can't be answered in any real sensible way because as we talk about, hypnosis is really just a type of communication and a certain type of learning that can happen through communication. So whether it works or not, it really depends on what's being communicated, on how it's being communicated, and also what's being learned. So it's like asking, does communication work or does learning work? There's no real answer to that. But of course, we understand that when people ask that kind of question, does hypnosis work or will it work? What they kind of really mean is, can hypnosis help me get desired results that I want? And obviously, that's a sensible question people would have. Uh, but the only real answer to that is it depends. And as you can see on this little picture here, it's kind of an unsatisfying answer, but I think it's really the only real honest answer that can be given. Especially if there's been no sort of consultation or anything like that to discuss a person's specific issues. Um, but here's one big reason that hypnosis doesn't work. Uh, the hypnotism is kind of like a tool or a method. So if it's applied to the wrong problem, it really doesn't matter because if it's misapplied, it's not really going to do much. This is an example. Let's say someone has a history of being nervous about something like a lot of very common thing. For example, public speaking. So they're struggling with public speaking or anything of that nature. And one day they had the bright idea, maybe I'll get hypnotized so I have more confidence about public speaking or whatever activity. And I help tons of people with that sort of thing, whether it's public speaking, test taking, all those sorts of things. But here's the difficulty. In some cases, let's say some people have a belief in their head that somehow got in their head, they're somehow taught or trained to think that it's unacceptable for someone like me to be nervous. Now, in some cases where that's the case, that's going to be kind of an issue because in that situation, this person thinks that they're going to get hypnotized so they have more confidence. But if you think about the underlying belief, it's unacceptable for someone like me to be nervous, that's just a rule that somehow they agreed to, somehow they picked up along the way. And if you think about that rule, actually what it is, it's kind of it's associated with a certain sense of pride. Like, I'm special, I should be in control, I shouldn't be nervous like other people, that kind of thing. So in this case, if people had this sort of belief in their head and they think, well, I'll just get hypnotized so I have more confidence and I'm more in control, well, that kind of is not really getting to the problem. Um, so hypnotism can still help because in this case, because if that's brought to the person's attention that they have this belief or rule that they have conditioned themselves to believe or that they've been encouraged to believe, from growing up or their environment. Well, if we apply hypnosis to helping remove or undo the effects of that programming, then a lot of times the confidence just comes naturally. You don't have to tell them to be confident or feel in control. It just doesn't matter to them. They just perform naturally as well as they can, speaking or doing whatever. So it can still help in that case, but here's the dilemma. Let's say in some cases that's brought to people's attention and they actually believe that it's unacceptable for someone like them to be nervous or that it's absolutely essential that they remain in control. Now, in that case, that's like an irrational belief that they choose to believe, and hypnotism can't really override that. It can't cause people to change their beliefs if they actually choose those beliefs. And if you think about it, that's actually a good thing because then hypnotism can't change your principles or morals over the long run, that kind of thing. So it's actually a good thing, except in this case where someone actually kind of holds on to an irrational belief for some reason. Um, Another example of that would be, let's say a lot of people think, well, I need more motivation, so I'll get hypnotized and hypnotist will tell me, you are highly motivated now. Now the problem with that is, that can feel good, and the problem with that is that I think that, well, I don't just think, I think it's the case that motivation fundamentally is a temporary thing. That's the nature of motivation. So focusing hypnotic work on something temporary isn't going to make a temporary thing permanent, if that makes any sense. So that's why in a lot of cases, if people listen to like CDs or done hypnotic work where it's just basically like, you are more motivated and confident, well, that by itself, that's like a temporary thing. So it's kind of, as it says here, I think it's useless in the long run unless hypnotic work helps, and it can do this, it can help people get into the regular habit of regular self-motivation. Self-motivation is like a necessary thing. Um, it can also help people learn certain ways of thinking about the things on their list of things to do, prioritizing, finding it easier to let go of things that don't really matter. So that, people aren't thinking, like in this picture here of this person thinking, I have to do everything all at once, I have to clean all the things, I have to do everything, because that leads to overwhelmment. And so if we use hypnosis in the right way, we can kind of cause that overwhelmment type of feeling not to happen in the first place. But a person has to be willing to learn these different ways of thinking, organizing things in their head, chunking tasks into like reasonable, groupings. And also the emotional regulation that we talk about here, where we help people with hypnosis not feel any, the sort of resistance or discomfort or the mindless avoiding reaction that they have about, something that's just really not that fun or enjoyable. But again, people have to be willing to kind of learn these skills and to do the hypnotic process to let these things happen. And unfortunately, if they go into it thinking, well, I just want to hear someone tell me, you are now motivated or you are now confident. Well, who cares? I mean, that stuff doesn't really matter. Without the skills, without the habits, without the emotional regulation, those are more important things. So the idea here is before doing this any sort of work, really, before seeking help from anyone, and whether hypnotist or not, it can be a good idea to kind of think to yourself and be honest with yourself. Are there any beliefs or rules in your head that you've acquired somehow, somewhere, who knows where, it doesn't matter sometimes, any beliefs or rules that could prevent you from achieving your goal? And a lot of times if you think about these things, you can kind of like, internal dialogue, sometimes you might kind of get a good sense of the presence of these ideas, these problematic rules, in terms of like, I must control this feeling, or I should feel this or that, I should feel excited about taking out the garbage, or I should feel happy about doing my dishes, whatever. Or even this is a big one, the belief that some people have, like, I need to feel motivated or confident before I get started, which is completely arbitrary. It's irrational if you think about it. So then if you kind of get a sense that those things are somehow in your head, then just be honest with yourself and ask yourself, are you willing to reevaluate and reconsider those beliefs and rules? Or at least apply them more flexibly depending on the situation. And if that's the case, then that's great. Then we can work on that, and hypnosis can make it much easier to kind of undo the effects of those kinds of rules that somehow got embedded in there. And it says here, sometimes actually the desire to problem solve all the time, to control the problem, and this is self problem, but that's a totally different thing. We don't overcomplicate this at this point. But yeah, if you're willing to kind of reevaluate and reconsider things, beliefs like that, then that's great. We can go ahead. So hopefully this explains why the answer of like, does hypnosis work, or will it get me certain results, it really can't be answered yes or no, especially from someone who's never met you or just reading something on a website. That makes no sense, obviously. And that's why it depends is the only real answer. And that's also why I always do a consultation with clients, like a free consultation before doing anything. Because it's too easy to solve the wrong problem in this work. And it's too easy to work with people who just think, okay, I'm going to hear, you are now confident, or you are now motivated. And, that really doesn't get people anywhere, I think, in a lot of cases. But if we work on the right thing, then, as it says here, like, we can see amazing things happen. Now, a lot of times it's really not this complicated either, especially for certain habits like smoking or certain mindless habits. A lot of times it's really a lot of beliefs and things like rules and that sort of stuff. The higher level type of things that people, those things really aren't involved. They're just mindless habits, and hypnosis can really help pretty easily and simply, like kind of weird ways, especially with mindless habits. And that's what we consider things like simple habits, simple fears, those sorts of things. And hopefully also this presentation helps make that distinction clear, because there are two different kinds of tracks, two different types of programs for the two different types of things. Kind of simple things like mindless habits, mindless fears, simple fears, or more complex things that involve more higher level type of thinking that could be kind of irrational, that we can kind of resolve in some way. But anyway, hope that makes sense. And if you have any other questions, just check out the website. There's a contact form on there. If you want to sign up for more information like this, as it says here, you can send a blank email to this email address. And I don't read those emails. It's autoresponders, so you'll get more free reports and things like that, updates, things of that nature. But anyway, hope this was useful to you. Thanks.